Hello everyone. Presenting here is a brief description of scope definition and WBS creation in Project Scope Management System. Let's dive into the video straight away. The major key elements we will look into are overview of the project scope management, define scope, create work break structure, conclusion and references. So, scope management is the process of defining what work is required and then making sure all of that work and only that work is done. We need to know what requirements are being specified and accordingly we plan our work. Scope management plan should include detailed process of scope determination, which means that the correct scope has to be identified first. Then that scope is to be managed throughout the project, and at last we also need to take care that the work in the scope is not out of our control. Hence, the scope needs to be controlled according to the capacity. So we briefly look into the process of requirement gathering. Requirement gathering is the process of defining and documenting all stakeholders needs to meet the project objectives. This process is critical for the project success. There are numerous ways for requirement gathering. Some of the basics are interviews, questionnaires and surveys, observations and document analysis. Next, we have defining a scope. It is necessary that we have a detailed description of the project and the product. The key benefit of this process is that it describes the project, service or result boundaries by defining which of the requirements collected will be included in and excluded from the project. So we can have the idea at the starting only what all requirements are to be fulfilled and what all requirements can be ignored or discarded. We have inputs, tools and techniques and outputs for define scope as a process. The process requires inputs such as scope management plan, which is output of plan scope management process. Second, project charter, which is the output of develop project charter process. Project charter is basically the purpose of the project mentioned and high-level specification of the project. Requirement documentation, which is the output of collect requirement process, and organizational process assets like previous experiences, policies, procedures, project files from previous projects, lesson learned from previous phases. Next, we come up to the tools and techniques for defining a scope. First is expert judgment. We can take expert opinion from as many resources such as units within the organization, consultants, stakeholders including customers and sponsors, professional and technical associations, industry groups, etc. Product analysis. For projects that have a product as a deliverable, product analysis include techniques such as product breakdown, system analysis, requirement analysis, system engineering, value engineering, and value analysis. Alternatives generations. We can have as many potential options as possible in order to identify approaches to execute and perform the work of the project. Facilitated workshops. The participation of key players with a variety of expectations and or field of expertise helps us to reach a cross-functional and common understanding of the project objectives and its limits. Now, what is the output of this process? There are two outputs: project scope statement, project document updates. Project scope statement is the detailed scope of the project. either directly or by reference to other documents, includes the following: project scope description, acceptance criteria, deliverables, project exclusions, constraints, and assumptions. Project document updates means that when we define a scope, it may result in necessary revisions to certain other project documents. Next is creating a work breakdown structure. This is the process of subdividing project deliverables and project work into smaller, more manageable components. These components are easier to work upon, and understanding the process is quick as it provides a structured vision of what is to be delivered. Here also we have inputs, the tools and techniques for creating the WBS and outputs of WBS. The inputs are scope management plan, which is again the output of planned scope management process. Project scope statement requirement, requirement documentation, organizational process assets, enterprise environmental factors. By this enterprise environmental factors we mean industry specific WBS standards relevant to the nature of the project may serve as an external reference sources for the creation of WBS. For example, engineering projects may reference ISO IEC 15288 on the systems. Also, there are system lifecycle processes to create WBS for a new project. The tools and techniques for creating WBS are: first, expert judgment; second, decomposition. So, expert judgment is often used to analyze the information needed to decompose the project deliverables into smaller component parts in order to create an effective WBS. And decomposition is the subdivision of project deliverables into smaller, more manageable components until the work and deliverables are defined to work at package level. Here we have three ways to do it. First, we do the decomposition of some deliverables until the uncertainty is clarified. Until that, we wait. There is a 80-hour rule here, which suggests that work package should take approximately 80 hours worth of effort to complete. Here are some examples of WBS. First, this example is the decomposition done on the basis of the type of work. That what is the type of work here? First, we need assessment, standard development, system engineering, and according to that, the segregations is done. The next example is the decomposition is done on the base of phase or the part of the process cycle the task falls in. Like we have all in SDLC, project management, requirement specification, design, integration, and testing. The third depends on the major or key deliverables that has to be provided. This depends on the type of product which we are delivering. The outputs of this process are scope baseline and project document updates. Scope baseline is the approved version of the scope statement, work breakdown structure, and it is associated WBS dictionary that can be changed only through formal change control procedures and is used as a basis of comparison. Project document updates, again, when we create a WBS, there are necessary changes which has to be made in other project documents. So at last, we reach to the conclusion. First, defining the scope at initial stages is very crucial so that we can easily analyze, control, and validate the future success of the project. Also, creating WBS provides a structured format to aid the study of the scope of a project. Thank you all for watching this video.